Okay, episode 2 of the twin engine bike. I noticed as I was taking these forks off, probably hard for you guys to see, but there's some play in those bushings, or bearings I should say, these bearings here, and I'm afraid that if I take this apart, it's the kind with a lower race, a bunch of loose balls, and an upper race. I'm going to take it apart and it's all going to fall apart. But that is sloppy, so that's going to have to come apart. And then, I wasn't expecting much out of these. I pumped them up and down a few times. Obviously, they're going to need fork seals. There's no fluid left in there. There's no dampening at all, so fork seals and fluid for those. And I noticed this before, but this fork was not actually connected to here, so the bolts fell out. That's not a big deal, you know, dust seals are cracked, whatever. I noticed this was moving a lot, and then I noticed that it's missing a stud out of the bottom of the fork here. It's actually in there, it's just snapped off, so be some easy out and vice grip work to get that this fork on this side back together correctly. This other side, you know, it's same type of deal. Fork seal, dust cap, that sort of thing. Obviously the tires are completely shot, but it's been sitting outside for decades. The spokes, just a little bit of surface rust, nothing bad. I'm not going to relace that. A new feature I found right here, that is not the tire valve, that is a rim lock. And what that does, there's a piece of metal or plastic in here that when you tighten that, it wedges up against the tire and it seats the tire against the rim so it doesn't spin. So you can run basically no air pressure in here and not worry about the tire spinning on the rim. Because when a tire spins on the rim, what happens is this Schrader valve over here where you put the air in, if this tire rotates on the rim, it'll take this and it'll rip it right out of the tube. So then you're kind of screwed. So modern bikes have there's different options. I mean, you can put it in old bikes too, but the modern option, instead of using a rim lock, is to use a system called tubeless, T-U-B-L-I-S-S, something like that. And what that does is there's two Schrader valves on it. Instead of a rim lock, there's another Schrader valve, and you fill that to like 100 psi, and it inflates little tubes on each side of the tire that push the tire against the rim with high pressure air. And then your other Schrader valve is for how much air you actually want in your tire. There's also bib mousse, which is just like a big donut that goes in there instead of the tube, and then you order that based on how stiff you want it to be. So then there's no actual air in there, it's just that bib mousse. But those two things are just kind of off-road use only type of deals. So with rim locks, you need a lot of balance weight on the other side, which this does not have, but this was probably not a high-speed bike. Obviously not a high-speed bike. I wonder if the rear has one as well. Let's take a look. Yep, the rear also has a rim lock on it, so you have to loosen those way up. And if you're taking the tire off, I usually just take the nut completely off to reinstall that. What in the world is going on here? Now you see we've got one rim lock, two rim locks, and then we got a Schrader valve. That is interesting. I wonder if they drilled that in or if that was a factory option, because they are opposite each other, which would help with the balance. Because if you just put one in, you gotta have a ton of weight opposite that. So that is interesting. I'll have to, once I get this rear rim apart, I'll have to see if that's actually a factory option or if somebody just drilled it full of holes. Hopefully they did not drill it full of holes. Now you see the front. The front does not have that. It's just got the Schrader valve not quite, well, probably about a third of the way around. No extra rim lock. That's weird that they put two on it. I mean, you only really need one, but for balance reasons. Huh, that's interesting. I didn't notice that before. Anyway, on the engine, it's still stuck. It's got more penetrating fluid in it. If it went down a little, but not very much, so if I can't get this loose with penetrating oil, I'll drain it all out and I'll fill it with diesel fuel, which is a better option in my experience. And if that doesn't work, transmission fluid almost always gets stuff unstuck. For me personally, I usually use that first. I just don't have any sitting around, and it's not like I'm in a hurry to do this because it's December. So that's where we're at. Have to take this thing apart here. Clunk, clunk, clunk. A little bit of vertical travel too. Take that apart, see what it looks like inside. It's gonna probably be a catastrophe.